Jason, and you're listening to
The Boombox.
your one and only stop for recent music hits as well as trending pop culture crazes in the sprawling 1980s. On today's show, Movie Mondays, we discuss a new movie that just came out recently, starring Michael J. Fox and Madonna, the pop star. I know, kind of weird, right? The movie The Monkey's Paw, released with mixed results, so to speak, with most critics saying it's just a mediocre movie with nothing to write home about. I mean, I guess, but like, the poster was really great. You have to see it. Anyways, it was a bit controversial. It was like, I don't know. It was okay, I guess. I haven't seen it yet, and I don't think I will, because I don't really care about it. But, like, it did spark an interest in the original source material. When written by W.W. Jacobs, The Monkey's Paw originally released in 1902 on Harper's Magazine. It was well received, and by both critics and readers alike. It even got a stage play in the movie back in the 1910s. And now, in the lively 80s, we get our own spin on a classic. Personally, again, I haven't seen the movie, and honestly, I don't think I really will. I don't really care for it. I mean, I'm more of like an action thriller guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, have you seen Ghostbusters? That's a really great film. You have to watch it. But like, it's okay. I won't really see it. I've seen the trailer, but I haven't really seen it. But I did hear the ending of the movie was quite controversial. Actually, in fact, most of the movie was actually quite controversial, with most critics agreeing that the lighthearted tone of the movie is a bit out of place compared to the original source material, with all the critics wishing it was more of a dark and more suspenseful movie, like the original story, with the most controversial part being the ending of it. However, I never really watched the movie, like I said before, or never really read old magazines, because who reads now, am I right? Anyways, but I do have a very special guest, a well-respected critic in both books and movies. I introduce to you William Graham. Welcome to the show, William. How's your day?
Well, not bad if I say so myself. Well, I recently went to the movies with my family and my grandson. He's 5 now. We all of us recently saw the new movie Monkey's Paw. It's not really great.
Yeah, you were telling me about that on the phone earlier, actually.
Yeah, me and the family watched it. It was a fun time, although I didn't really appreciate the gross-out humor in the movie. I really do like the performance of that. What's his name again? Michael Jackson Fox? Or something along those lines. It was a really fun time, although I do have to admit, the movie is kind of okay.
So, like, give us some insight to what you're thinking, because, like, I would argue some of our viewers back at home would probably say otherwise about the movie.
Well, let me just say that the movie itself is not bad. It's pretty decent, and it got my grandson laughing all the way through. We almost got kicked out of the theater at one time. Well, back to the movie. It's just some changes were a bit questionable, maybe even unlikable. For example, the writing they did for one of the characters, Mrs. White, who in the movie, I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure she was called Brittany. They pretty much turned her into an unlikable person, spoiled, entitled, one of those rich girls back who lives in Beverly Hills, not really a great person. Now, I would love to compliment that singer Madonna. She really did a great job of portraying her character, but the character's attitude and the things she did in the movie is a huge difference compared to the story version. The story by W.W. Jacobs, Because in the story, Mrs. White is just a sweet old lady who really loves her family. I know in the movie all the characters are young and set in the modern era to appeal to the younger folks. But I really don't like what happened, and everyone has come to this consensus that Mr. and Mrs. White were responsible and should be in jail for the death of their son Herbert. Everyone I've talked to, even some of my teenage grandchildren, everyone thinks that the Mr. and Mrs. White are both responsible for the death of their son, both the movie version and the original story. However, that's not what I think at all. Well, for the story version at least, I do agree that the consensus for the movie one, but I would say that Mr. White was innocent. He was truly a loving father. I like what Tom Hanks did with the character, but I think that Brittany character should be in jail for what happened to her son. She was really a rotten egg, if I say so myself.
Yeah, okay. So could you give us some insight? Because you said something that you think that the movie version White family are guilty, but not the story version. Could you explain further, elaborate on why you think that?
Of course. Now, what happened in the original story was the White family used the monkey's paw for a wish of 200 pounds so that they could pay off their house. Now, they weren't desperate for the money per se. They were actually financially stable somewhat. They just wanted to pay the payment so that they wouldn't have to think about it anymore, because no one wants to deal with debt and all that. Now, when they made the wish, they did get 200 pounds, but because of the monkey's paw curse, they lost their son because of it. He was caught in the machinery that they working at his job. But they did get their wish, but they lost their son in the process. Now, this broke the family's heart. This broke the couple's heart to the point where the family decided to wish their son back, but then Mr. White and Mrs. White had a disagreement where Mrs. White tried to open the door for the mysterious knocking, who she thought was Herbert at the front door, and Mr. White just used the third wish and wished it away. So we never really knew if it was Herbert knocking at the door at the end of the story. So we never really knew if it was actually Herbert or a horribly disfigured monster which Mr. White was afraid was at the front door. Now, does this make the White family guilty? Should they be charged for Herbert's death? Because ultimately, their wish for 200 pounds did cause the death of Herbert. Does that make them guilty?
Does it?
No, it does not. Because, in my opinion, the White family wasn't guilty. Because their wish was to benefit the family and not hurt anyone. They weren't trying to kill their son. They just wanted some extra money so that they could pay off their house. And I know that they were already warned that the paw could have severe consequences if they used it. You have to understand, the person who gave them the paw, Sergeant Major Morris, also told them more unbelievable stories that made the paw look a little bit less supernatural and scary and more hilarious and more of a joke to them. They could never have known how much danger they were actually in. They were also a bit hesitant on using the paw, and they didn't really see a purpose on using it. Said by Mr. White, and I quote, "I don't know what to wish for," and that's a fact. It seems to me I've got all I want. They weren't greedy or anything. They just wanted a little bit of money so that they could pay off their payments. They weren't bad people. They already, like Mr. White said, he has everything he ever wanted. They just wanted a little bit of cash so that they could pay off their house. They weren't trying to hurt anyone or even kill anyone for that matter. It seems to me that the death of their son was purely accidental. They had no control on what would happen after they made the wish. The consequences was completely out of their control. It seems to me that Mr. and Mrs. White are just a nice couple who just wanted the best for their family, and due to the circumstances has led to the death of their son.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I think I'm starting to get it now. Thank you for that. Now, there are other things that...
How boring.